What? Yes. It's upstairs. You know exactly where it is. Right. Exactly. I love you too. I love you. Hi. Oh my God, it's Mr. Davis. And he didn't know where. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. I am so excited that you're here again with Auntie. That's right, me, Mrs. Kasha Davis. And you're liking and you're subscribing and you're commenting. And some of you are a little sassy. That's all right. I mean, drag is not a crime. Anyway, I am so thrilled today. We bring in the movers, the shakers, the motivators, and this particular person has become not just a great friend, but a business partner as well. I am thrilled to have the fabulous Mary Tiballi Hoffman.
It's me. Hello.
Hello. Look, we can see each other too.
Oh, there you are. Yes.
Right. Look, you're looking into the microphone. Do you know what that is that you're holding?
This?
Yes.
I'm 40 years old. I know what this is. Come on.
Well, the great thing here at Rockbox Studios, they don't need to use this old-timey equipment. Watch this. Hands-free, you can still hear me. Miracles.
Oh, the conveniences of the modern age.
The modern age.
Yes.
First and foremost, thank you for joining. And here we are sitting face-to-face having a convo together.
Happy to do it. Anytime.
Oh, my gosh. We have so much to talk about. But I have to say, now, when I thought about different people, I immediately thought of our project, Imagination Station. And I thought, oh, my gosh, Mary has got to get in here to talk. Mary is not just the partner of mine with Imagination Station, creator, writer, producer. She's the executive director at Blackfriars Theater, a fundraiser, and one would say, probably most importantly, a fabulous mom.
A mom. Yes.
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 And you're juggling it all.
Somehow. Yeah. Somehow we manage.
Yeah. Well, the whole point about having this podcast is to sit down with Auntie, have a conversation about how you do it, how you can, maintain a relationship, maintain being a mom, a very, very high pressure job that's not just creative. You're also making sure that the doors are open because you're out in the community and getting partnerships and people to become subscribers and to keep the arts alive.
Yeah.
Now, you went to school for theater, right?
I did. I went to Nazareth College, now Nazareth University, for theater arts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what happened next?
Then I worked at Naz for a while in their arts center. And then I decided to take a leap of faith and just pick up and move to Philadelphia, PA. Why not?
Why not? I love Pennsylvania.
Yes, I said I have to shake things up.
In Pennsylvania, they have hoagies, not subs.
Correct. With whiz.
That's personal. I don't want to hear about it.
Yep. The hoagies with the whiz.
Yeah.
So I went to Philadelphia to shake things up. I wanted to pursue a career in fundraising for the arts, and it wasn't happening in Rochester at the time. And so I went to Philadelphia. I was there for 6 months, working with the Philadelphia Orchestra and the Academy of Music in fundraising. And then I got a job at Jiva Theater Center here in Rochester, New York.
Oh my gosh, how funny.
Yeah. So I came back and that was my first Rochester fundraising job. And then after 5 years there, I moved to Blackfriars and worked my way up to the executive level.
Yes. And honestly, tireless. I mean, it is, everybody here listening knows the job of a mom is, it's nonstop. And so you are maintaining, bringing up these two marvelous comedians, we call them.
Yep.
Because I've gotten to know them since they were little ones. And you're maintaining keeping the doors open. It's truly keeping the doors open, but at the same time, being creative. How do you kind of what's the magic there?
Coffee, caffeine.
Right.
Thank goodness it's creative because it's the creativity piece that fuels you.
Right.
I know you know that as a creative person yourself who also runs their own business. Thank goodness for that creativity piece because that's what fuels the work part of it. I don't know that anybody really loves doing the administrative side of it as much. I love a spreadsheet, I guess,
Right.
but asking people for money, particularly during COVID when we couldn't perform, we were shut down for 18 months.
Right.
So, and this is not a little new theater company. We'll be celebrating 75 years this year.
And
So it's the pressure of you have to not only keep this company alive, but we've been around for longer than you've been alive.
Right.
So it was intense. We're a staff of 2.
and there's a board, right?
There is a board, yes, in an advisory capacity.
Okay.
And our board was super helpful during that shutdown, just in supporting the staff of 2 as we navigated through that. But man, if you have a fundraiser for an arts organization in your life, send them flowers because
Right.
they've been through it lately.
They have been through it. Obviously, Blackfriars Theater is different than Jiva, and I would assume the organization you work for in Philadelphia, where,
Yep.
as you said, it's small. It's a staff of 2. I've watched you flip on the sport coat to go out to do a curtain speech, and then you're vacuuming in the morning, bringing in coffee for the tech people.
Sure.
I mean, so you really end up having to put on every hat,
Yeah.
all while sometimes having the kids there or making sure you can run back and forth. And it's a community effort, and I think their leadership. I love to celebrate leadership. It is no surprise that as a little boy, girl, gal, girl, boy, fella, I looked up to my mother and watched just exactly this type of thing. I mean, she did not run a theater. She ran a household.
She hustled, though.
5 kids.
Yeah.
And she was an amazing businesswoman with regard to her district with Avon products.
Of
and
course.
she was inspiring all these people. And so I loved how confident my mother was. I loved how if you confronted her, whether it was somebody in a grocery store, she stood up, and she was this tiny little Italian woman who was dressed to the nines, and if somebody had something to say, she was right there in your face. I remember a time where, Mary, I don't even know if I ever told you this story.
Oh, please. I love Ellen stories.
I made this mistake of not really knowing what I was writing. So our school was competing of some sports ball, and the team was Montrose Moose, and I said Montrose sucks moose balls, I just was thinking popcorn balls. I didn't know what I was, so I put a giant sign out front, and my mother was she's like, everybody's beeping at your sign. Good job, Eddie, and. I'm out front.
She's so supportive of you.
So supportive. And so, of course, the principal, we lived real close to the school, comes down and started yelling. And I got in trouble and they were going to suspend me. And she just marched her little self right up that hill and was like, it's all taken care of, get to school. And I don't know how she did some of the things that she did, but
I love that.
But she was fierce. She was confident. She was a businesswoman. And I gravitate to these people. And that is what I think of when I think of you, is that, yes, it's tough. And you have the social media and all the different angles of the way the world pushes against us. But you continue to go through and you rise to the top. You have this position. How does it feel to be in the position of the women-managed Blackfriars Theater? It's historic in Rochester, correct?
It is historic in Rochester. And as I said, we're 75 years old. Up until 2 years ago, we were a male-run company.
Right.
So now we have 2 women
Yes.
in charge in a dual leadership role, which is awesome.
And
It's
2
great.
moms.
And we're 2 moms.
Yeah.
We both, between us, we have 2 children, or we have 4 children under the ages of 9.
Right.
So, I mean, they're real little. So, sometimes we have to go and get our kids off the bus. Sometimes we have to go pick them up from school because they have a fever. That usually falls on the mother as kind of primary parent. At least in our instance, it does. So it is, the juggle is real, baby. It's a lot, but it feels great. And I mean, I love hearing stories about your mom. I was thinking about it on the drive over, and about how I love hearing how you remember your mother and how you kind of honor her and how she has inspired you throughout your life. And That's so nice to hear from you because your mother was so impactful in your life and you had such a deep and profound relationship with her. And I see every day how she shows up in your work. And so if I can have that for my kids, that's amazing. I mean, that's the goal.
Well, unfortunately, my mom passed earlier than one would have expected.
Right.
And we were so close. And I would consider myself, mama's boy. And ultimately, Mrs. Kasha Davis has chosen to have the responsibility to keep mom alive and to seek out opportunities to celebrate others that remind me of my mother, to support others. And that's really, it's an honor to work with you because I know how hard it was for her. And I was there for her as a teenager when she was trying to juggle the household responsibilities and taking care of her mother. And then also, obviously, running her business. And it was just tough. And it was tough. And so I know there are times when I'm like, you know what, I Mary's going through it. I just want to go say hello, bring a coffee or a little something. Because I know what that's like. And it seems like you have a really great support system of friends.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky because my parents live 10 minutes away from us. I forced them into a retirement and I forced them to move to Rochester so that they could support me.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that's what families do.
Well, it takes a village,
It takes
right?
a village, yeah.
So I'm very lucky in the village that I have. Because I would not be able to do everything that I do without their support.
Well, so Blackfriars Theater
Yeah.
is celebrating the big anniversary this year.
Yep.
And would it be safe to say is more successful than ever? Are we on the right track? Are things good?
Well, I don't want to pass judgment on what has come before.
Right,
but we are, we've recovered from that shutdown I spoke of earlier during all the unpleasantness. And we are on track to really launch into our next 75 years.
Awesome.
I'm really excited about it. We have a great 75th season lined up, and we are galvanized to create more community partnerships. We've added new programming. So I feel like from the inside, the energy is starting to really bubble again. We're getting into a nice rolling boil.
Nice.
And I hope that energy is palpable to people outside of the organization too, that they can feel that excitement.
I think so. I can certainly feel it. And again, not passing judgment on those before, but it's exciting to see the theater progressing and evolving. And in that respect, people can become donors, people can become season ticket holders, and these are great ways to continue to support the theater.
Yes, of course.
Right. Okay, transition. Speaking of my mother was all about kids. And she just loved the fact that her little Eddie from the youngest age, I was a helper with my youngest sister, and I was always just enamored by, the magic of children and the innocence and the humor and all of it. And one of the things that was very difficult for her when I came out was she was like, Eddie, I mean, how are you going to have kids? And, this is a time where in a small town, it's like there was no examples of a homosexual family having children. And if so, it was not computing in this brain of hers. And she was devastated most specifically because she was like, you would make such a great dad, and didn't understand. And so you came to me, what year do you think that was?
I came to you in April of 2017.
Yeah. And I had just done one story hour for the Irondequoit Library.
Yep, which I attended.
Yes. And you said we would like to have coffee and talk about Drag Story Hour.
Yeah.
And I was immediately excited about the fact that there is this possibility to provide children of today something that wasn't there for me as a child. And I immediately was like, I trusted both you and Danny from Blackfriars Theater, but I immediately was like, oh, there's something passionate about the way Mary is delivering this, that she sees something bigger than I saw. I was familiar with Drag Story Hour out in, I think, San Francisco, where I was aware that it was happening. Yeah. And at the time, it was post RuPaul's Drag Race, season 7, and I was, striving to get the nightclub gigs, but also in the transition of sobriety. And I was like, how do I make my drag impactful? And so you gave me a call and said, let's have coffee. And what do you remember from that day? What was your pitch?
Yeah. So I remember we sat down, and I honestly don't remember how involved I got in the pitch in the email saying, hey, do you want to meet me for coffee? But we sat down and I think we talked for maybe 2 hours. It was, it quickly got out of hand.
Right.
But it was like it just clicked into place. I mean, this whole idea was born March 31st of 2017. I was on Facebook and a video popped up of a Drag Story Hour in Brooklyn at a library. And I thought to myself, I wish we had that in Rochester. At the time, my son was almost 2, and I was looking for affirming places to take him. And I realized really quickly that this would be great in Rochester, but we didn't have it. And so I shared it on my Facebook page and I said, man, wouldn't it be awesome if Rochester had something like this? And very quickly, everybody started chiming in saying, yeah, this would be great. I would love to take my kids to this. And then one of my friends who was a bit of a smartass chimed in and said, oh, gee, if only you knew somebody who was friends with a drag queen and had a performance venue at their disposal with ample parking and resources to promote such an event. To which I responded, yeah, okay. I get it. Add to the plate. To the plate. But it sat with me, and I remember going in and saying to Danny, is this something that we can do? And he said, yes. And then we both looked at each other and we said, we know exactly who to ask. And so we met over coffee and we talked about it. And it was like one idea just kind of started off on another idea. And then it just built on itself. And you were the absolute right choice to do it. Because beyond just reading a story to kids, we quickly realized that we were dealing with an experience, right? It wasn't just a story time. It was a real theatrical experience with the potential for songs, for dad jokes, having interactions with the kids to make it really this wonderful program that it quickly built into. And we launched the thing, I think our first one was September of 2017. So we took that summer to kind of get all our ideas down. And then we started it and it took right off.
And I'm the kind of person that was like, let's just jump in and go for it. And both you and Danny were like, you know what? Like, these are some of the ideas. Let's talk about this first. Let's have a little bit more of a plan. And I just felt every hair that was, even the ones that were shaved off my arms, like standing up saying like, this is what you're supposed to do. I have done many interviews over the years, and I credit both you and Angela Washko as people who have seen something in me and said, okay, you're a little all over the place. Let's focus this energy. Let's focus what you're doing with your drag. And we've had so many different conversations about how important it is to do the work that we're doing. And at this point now, like, I know that it is what I was meant to do in drag.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've had marvelous experiences, television experiences, crazy nightclub experiences. And I don't know that if I were only doing like the nightclub stuff, if I would necessarily quit, but I didn't feel like I'm contributing to society, that there's something more that can be done and that we're providing something for generations to come. And when I tell you, and I know you know because you stand on the stage too, when you look out at those eyes and those beautiful faces, and it's now 7 years all total that we've of children who are growing up with our story hour. I literally am like, this, I don't necessarily need to be paid to do this. I am grateful for pay for this, but the payment is to sit there and to see those faces light up and look at Mrs. Kasha Davis, who just happens to be, loves to read books, wears sparkly things. And by the way, they think I live at the theater.
Yep, sure.
And it's this magical moment for them where they can't believe their eyes. And then the moments, some of the most special moments are the parents and the grandparents. I mean, what are some of the things that you remember from those early days, or even like just in some of the live experiences where you have some feedback from the kids or from the parents, like that, like we're doing something special? Sure.
Well, I mean, you see the kids just be enveloped in, like, they're totally on board, and that's, as a mom, that's wonderful to see. Like, right. It's always fabulous to see kids being embraced so genuinely. And of course, they're being engaged in a very positive way. So that's lovely. But for me, what tells me that, like, this work is vital, it's critical. It's not just important. It's absolutely critical. We had a grandfather that came with his daughter and her family to one of the earlier ones, and it was during the holidays because he was in Rochester visiting, and he got dragged to this story time. And his whole body language over the course of the 30 minutes changed. Like, he started, sitting back in his seat with his arms crossed and, like, very clearly was dragged against his will to this program. And by the end of it, he was, up and dancing with his grandchild during the dance party. And this is the grandfather that then came up to me, or us, he definitely came up to me and said, "Thank you so much for doing this. I had no idea. This is an amazing thing. Like, where was this when I had kids?"
Right.
And that, those are the moments that really stop you in your tracks. Because then you think about, that awakening that you just watched this 70-something-year-old man have in this dark theater for the last 30 minutes. If that had happened in 1991, how would his life be different?
Right.
How would his kids' lives be different? How could he better support his grandchild? Like, we just watched a man who has lived his life open his eyes to a new perspective.
Right.
And that's the stuff that gets me. That's the really beautiful stuff. I mean, there's all sorts of things. There's you giving a ring to a kid. Do you remember giving a ring to a child? You've sent me screenshots of messages that parents have sent you about how, their child was really in their shell about things and just really, needed some kind of external reassurance about themselves and who they are.
Even as simple as the parent who said, the confidence, I think the story you're bringing up is making me remember that this child just felt more comfortable to sit closer, to stand up, to participate, and just general confidence.
Yeah.
And these are the things that the arts and that theater can do for people.
Yep.
And this is the magic that we know as theater kids, all of us, that we know that we can bring to the stage. And I hope there are people listening that think that drag is not meant for kids right now. I hope that somebody stumbled upon this and they think like, oh my gosh, because ultimately there's a thought that people are performing and maybe have some sort of an agenda with regard to a messaging. And what I love about what we do is the messaging is rooted in kindness. And that came from a couple protesters, very few, that we had early on. And I immediately started to get nervous. Like, how am I going to be the face of this? What am I going to say? How am I going to answer? And you and Danny and I were backstage, and Danny turned and said, it's simple. We have an agenda. Say yes. If you happen to see someone different in the world, treat them with kindness. And it was like, it didn't happen, but it was like one of those moments where it was like,
yeah, rockets are going off, fireworks.
Right. Because there's this idea that, let me show you how to do drag.
No.
Let me show you how to dress up, do this. No, not at all. And let's face the facts. I am clearly dressed up. I don't change my voice much. I mean, I'm a little bit more animated and woo and all this stuff. But we're not trying to fool anyone.
Right.
We are, as we learn in theater, just being. And that is so special because I think it's almost shocking in a way for people to see that we're not trying to force like a fierceness and a style that is maybe something that is meant for the nightclub. And I'm so passionate about the idea of drag as an art form, and that you need to say it because you came up with it, that our show is a little touch of...
Oh, yes. Yes. It's as if Pee-wee's Playhouse was hosted by Mrs. Doubtfire in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Exactly.
That's it. Well, because that provides references that everybody knows. It's universal. And to speak to that bit about, it's not about drag. It's not, we don't talk about this is why I'm a boy and I wear women's clothing
right.
and I create this character. That's not what it's about, because even by doing that, by making it about that is continuing to kind of other it.
Yes.
Versus normalizing it.
Normalize and show that we are just all here together.
Yeah.
And this particular person happens to be dressed that way. And that's fabulous.
Because we are not defined by that.
Right.
Right? So that there, and maybe that's why we've only really ever had 2 protesters. I don't know. But it was very important that wasn't what it was about. That was just the medium through which this universal message that applies to everyone is transmitted.
Yes.
And that is to treat people with kindness, to celebrate our differences, to have compassion for people, to embrace people for who they are, and not let fear be the thing that guides you, because it will close you off to so many things, so many people, and so many experiences.
And you're absolutely right. When I stand on that stage and I think, I'm looking at the audience and I'm like, oh my God, some of the parents have their arms folded. And by the end, they're dancing.
Yeah.
By the end, and it's like, because part of what you do as a live performer is that you're gauging the room. And especially when it's sort of this improvisational performance, you kind of want to feel out the room. And sometimes there'll be some little jokes for the parents to keep them laughing about the Rochester weather or whatever. And then at the same time, you've got the kids involved and the kids are dancing. And to see them dream. I say I use children of all ages because, let's face it, I mean, I know I'm going to be turning 53, but the fact of the matter is, or at this point, 54, but I still feel like this young soul inside. And I still want to continue to dream and start things like a new podcast and start, opportunities. And sometimes we get stifled by, I can't.
Yeah.
I'm too old. I'm not allowed to dream anymore. I've got these other responsibilities. I'm too busy as a mom to become, this dream job as the executive director.
Yeah.
So we stop ourselves so often. And so I love that message is universal, to be kind and to love yourself, children of all ages, and give yourself the opportunity to continue to dream. And so these are the things that are happening at Story Hour. Well, as you mentioned, COVID hit and it put a big halt in the theater. And as that sort of like aggressive dreamer, I was like, someday we could do a show. Someday we could bring this to TV. And you and Danny be like, how about we just do another live show? And we built from like 10 people, let's just for throwing a number out there, to just hundreds of people. The theater was jam-packed.
Oh, yeah. If the fire marshal had come to the theater, we would have definitely gotten in trouble.
Well, COVID hit.
Yeah.
And my husband, Mr. Davis, Stephen Levins, came to me and said, start doing some story hours on your social media. And I got the chance to play a little bit more and to improvise and sort of study these books, figure it all out. And then I get another phone call from Tiballi Hoffman.
I'm always calling you. My God.
Well, maybe it was a text, but or no, you called me on this right here.
Yes.
No, you called and you said we've got a theater that's shut down.
I have an empty theater and a lot of time. Let's make that TV show.
And we did it.
We did. Yeah. Well, to speak to your point about like how you never really, you never know where your life's going to take you. And even grown-ups can have dreams and do things that surprise them. Like when you were saying that, I was like, did I think I would write a children's television show? Nope.
Right.
But here we are.
And we jumped in.
Yep.
We became writers.
Yep.
And dreamers. And we hired a film crew to come in at Fish and Crown Creative. Mm-hmm. And they were able to help us to bring this. So we had this studio space of the theater.
Yep.
It was like we took advantage of this time and we were able to work together and brought in designers from the community, Jack Haldupas, and created this set, brought in costumes from my basement. Mr. Davis, you're getting back on the stage again. And we created these episodes that I consider magic.
Yeah.
And
we only did 4, but I could do 20.
Well, we're going to do 20. We're going to manifest
yeah.
this because we're at the point now where we created these 4 episodes and we started to say like, okay, how do we do this? Mm-hmm. We presented it to World of Wonder first out of respect because of my opportunities they provided me with RuPaul's Drag Race and they declined.
Yep.
And okay, fine. And so we kept pursuing. We went to sell ourselves, over the phone. And then we went out to, was it Hoboken that we
yes.
met? Yes. And we met Jarrett Creative out there. And we have signed this deal.
Yes.
After a lot of negotiation, we signed this deal where they're working to pitch us, and we're getting closer and closer. How does this? I know how I can answer how this feels, but how does this feel for you?
It's exciting. It's incredibly surreal.
Right.
Again, because I'm a mom, a suburban mom. Which you are too. And it's just wild to get these emails with these major streaming networks referenced in them, looking at our little project that we put together in the summer of 2021. It's bananas.
Why do you think, okay, so we keep each other grounded with patience with this process.
Yes, we do.
We don't know. We've never done this before.
Right.
So we really don't know. And they keep telling us like this takes time and we're not getting hard no's.
Correct.
I mean, we've had a couple of those, but in this particular process right now with these people who have sold shows before, they're not getting hard no's. Why is Imagination Station so special?
Well, because there's nothing like it, is what I would say.
Right.
So we know that there is a market for this, that families are hungry for this content, and that nobody's doing it.
Right.
I mean, we got a taste of it in the 90s when Robin Williams did Mrs. Doubtfire.
Right. But I recently saw that, and I want to ask the question, would it be as popular if Mrs. Doubtfire was divorcing, or, the Robin Williams character was divorcing because he was gay?
Right. It wouldn't be.
Then he wanted to get in drag and be close to his children and then read books to children. It's literally like it's my life.
That's the story. I mean, a lot of people will say that the reason why that people are so that find that story so endearing is because he's a straight man that just wants to be close to his kids, and isn't that nice?
Well, isn't that expected?
I certainly expect it, but
come on, dads.
All a dad has to do is post a picture of him and his kids on Facebook, and everybody's chiming in about what a good dad he is. Does anybody ever do that to the moms? No. Sorry, soapbox off a bit.
I get it though.
But we got a taste of that with Mrs. Doubtfire, and it was a huge hit.
Right.
I mean, it's proven that these kinds of Auntie characters speak to kids.
Right.
And they can be a charming, wonderful, entertaining vehicle through which real life lessons are delivered. And there's nothing like that on TV right now. And I think certainly with current events, there needs to be things like that on TV.
Well,
we're talking about representation matters. Then show us that and start it early. By the time they're teenagers, terrible things happen in bathrooms at high schools. We know this. It's too late.
Right.
Start it. Get the 4-year-olds. Get the 5-year-olds. Teach them so that if they grow up and they identify in the LGBT community, that they know that they have a community.
Right.
That there is a community that will support them, that there is power in numbers, that they can grow up and lead positive, beautiful, happy, healthy lives with all the things that they dreamt about. Your dreams of having a family when you grow up, you have that.
Right.
You didn't think that was available to you, but you have that. It took you until your adulthood to realize that is available to you.
And I had to go through things that I don't want other people to go through.
Exactly.
If there were these examples, like you're saying, the students in a bathroom in Oklahoma might not have acted with such in such a horrible
malice.
Manner.
Yeah.
Because they would have seen that this is just another person that has every right to be exactly who they are. And so in this subtle messaging of kindness, I think this messaging of kindness can continue to flow over. And we're very excited about the fact that it's a family program.
Yeah.
This program Imagination Station is for everybody. The parents get to sit down and watch it. And just like in the live shows, maybe get something from it. I've learned in that time of COVID reading those children's books that the books were written for the parents because obviously the kids don't necessarily read.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, anytime you're doing children's entertainment, you have to make it worthwhile for the grownups because the grownups are the ones making the decisions.
Right.
Well,
when you think about, you've had the opportunity of having sort of like your own test audience.
Yes, that they live with me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, after the shows, they come back and I would love for you to tell the story that happened at the bus stop.
Yeah. So I was at drop off with my son. I think he was in first grade. And we were waiting in the car for the bell to ring. And there, you see the same kids every day getting dropped off. And there is a girl that went to his school who is nonverbal. And her dad would walk her in every morning. And one particular morning we were waiting in our car and we saw the dad walking with his daughter and she was vocalizing. And so I said to Henry, oh, there's so-and-so. She's singing today. She's singing her songs. And there was a moment where he just regarded her walking along the sidewalk. And then out of nowhere, this, 7-year-old just says, oh, that's so-and-so. Yeah. Yeah, we should be kind to her. And I said, you know what? You're right. We should be kind to her. Why wouldn't we be? Yeah, we definitely should be kind to her. And then he took it a step farther and he said, well, that's what Mrs. Kasha Davis says. If you see somebody different than you, you should treat them with kindness. And I just had this moment, and it was right before the bell rang. I had this moment where I was like, that's exactly right, Henry. And then he got out of the car and just trotted into school. And before pulling away from the curb, I took out my phone and I started to speak into my phone, just a voice memo to you.
Right.
And I was just a blubbering mess. And I don't know if you saved it. It was the most ridiculous voice memo. I was oh my God, I'm sitting here and this just happened. Because I was so surprised at a 7-year-old's ability to articulate that so simply. And I was so proud of him in that moment, just as a mom. And I was overwhelmed with gratitude and pride for the work that we had been doing.
Right.
Because it was in that moment that I really felt like it was really making a difference. And it was helping me as a mom have the tools to have these conversations about inclusivity with my kids.
Well, and I know, based on the work that we've done in the past, that the best is yet to come. Does that mean that I know right now that this, deal is coming from a streaming platform? Maybe. No matter what, you and I, along with Danny Hoskins, we're going to continue to do the work we're doing, whether it's at the level of continuing or doing our live events at Blackfriars Theater, or maybe we'll have some other videos that we create because we've done such a fun job doing a little out and about in the community. No matter what, you and I both know, and we've committed to one another, that this work will continue. And when I tell you I've been given the opportunity recently to speak at HRC dinners, and there's a little video that is a montage of this work. And it's on a big screen, and it's a fundraiser, right, at these events. And it's a time for people to come in. It's a very emotional event. There's a lot of really passionate speaking about the state of the world in general, but just about representation in general. And I see our video up there, and just that alone, I stand behind the screen and watch it, and I see your kids' faces and Danny's kids' faces, and of course the faces of the other children that we've gotten to know. And the audience is responding with oohs and ahs and applause. And I get to go on stage and I get to share our experience. We've made it. We've done it. We're making that difference. Sure, we have alternate dreams that we want to come to fruition because we want it to be bigger, 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 bigger.
Yeah.
But that's not always success. Success could be the simplicity of just making the difference within our own community. And we both know that. And I think if we continue to keep each other grounded on that, we're going to make this continued difference. And I know that although it's not always our primary, it's our life's work.
Yeah, I agree. I've said several times to people that, if this is my legacy, fabulous. Like, great.
Yeah.
Did I think that this would be my life's work? My passion project that, hopefully, when I retire or when they carry me out in a bag, like that this is something that gets referenced is what I did with my time here. I couldn't be prouder if that's the case. And I hope, even if it's just, within our community, I hope that this program and the messaging that we are creating and the community that we're building creates a difference in our neighborhood, and it gives adults the tools that they need to better advocate for kids, and it gives kids the self-confidence to just be who they are without apologizing. And whether that's a member of the LGBT community or growing up just being staunch advocates and allies, like that's just as important.
Just as important.
I hope that we see in years to come the fruits of that work.
I know we will.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that we're getting to this end, but we have this opportunity on this podcast. We're actually sitting, staring face to face, eye contact, which in the day and age of technology isn't always the case. And I just want to, in your eyes, say thank you and how grateful I am to have this relationship, to bring this to fruition. You are the one that started all of this.
It's your fault.
It's your fault. No, you're the one. This is your passion project. And however it started, I am just so grateful to be along at your side, and I love you for it, and I know that there's many more memories we're going to continue to create, and I mean the best, truly the best is yet to come.
Yes, I am so lucky, and I am grateful to be your co-parent.
That's right.
On this journey.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so. Now, my favorite part of any show I do is dad jokes. So we have to do a couple dad jokes.
Okay.
You've got some there.
I got two good ones.
Okay, you can go first.
All right. I'm going to do save my favorite for the second one.
Great.
Okay. How do you make an artichoke?
How?
You strangle it.
Right? Okay. All right.
Okay.
What do you call a cow with no legs? Ground beef.
Oh! That's very good.
That's very good. Okay.
What did one DNA strand say to the other DNA strand?
I don't know.
Do these jeans make my butt look big?
Oh my God, that's great. Okay, this is a great one too. What do you call an old snowman?
Oh dear. I don't know.
Water.
Oh, no. He died.
He's melted. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for watching Auntie and listening. And I am so excited to continue to bring you people who motivate me, people who are just very special and doing very, very special work out in the world. And I am very, very grateful to be here at Rockbox Studios. And just, I mean, isn't the sound quality and the visual, it's just fantastic. And you know what they use? A filter. It's a lot of Vaseline. Look how good we look. Anyway, thank you so much. And remember, there's always time for kindness.